Welcome, everybody. My name's Maralee Burnett, and I am back again with your messages for the week of July 27th, 2026, which is a pretty powerful week as usual as we move through the energy of this 1 year and this fire horse year. Things are taking off fast, but we're about to see a lot of disruption and a lot of changes as we get ready to experience eclipse season. And the full moon this week in the sign of Aquarius is really the beginning of the work that's going to last through March of 2028. And that's why it's important that you finish what needs to be finished, close the chapters that need to be closed, so that you're ready to move on and move forward with a clean slate. So, if this all sounds really important to you, you want to make sure that you click on that subscribe button. That way you will be here to see everything that I have to share with you for the week ahead and in the future, because once you become a subscriber, then you get notifications every time I post new content, which is typically every weekend, more often if there's many more important things going on. And then make sure you go out to my website, maraleeburnett.com. Out there, you can, of course, become a subscriber and receive the emails of all of the content that I create to help get you prepared. And this is one of those weeks where there is a lot of content for you to go out there and review, because of how much shifting and changing we have going on. And because of that, I'm going to jump right in. Sorry, I'm not on the screen today, working on an eye issue, and it's just easier for me to record without me on the screen as I'm working on that eye issue for myself. All right, so if you listened to me last week, and if you haven't, go back and listen to that recording. I'll put a link to it in the content below the screen so that you can easily access it. But there I talked about a lot of the things that are actually in motion today, but definitely began last week. So let's break that down here on Monday, July 27th, and review what has just recently happened. Now, last week you heard a lot of conversation from a lot of astrologers about the Barbault's basket, and it was activated by Jupiter when it was at 4 degrees here in Leo, which now you see on the screen in front of you. The sun is in that area. So the sun comes in to shine a spotlight on this conflict, this tension between Pluto and Aquarius down here. And this makes the conflict even more visible. So I think that Pluto does a good job of keeping things hidden, but when the sun comes in here like it is now, then it's highlighting this conflict. It's highlighting what's been going on beneath the surface in regards to this conflict that we haven't been aware of. And if you have been experiencing some kind of conflict in your own life, then like I said, the sun will come through here and highlight it for you so that you can understand it. And of course, with any conflict, your best way through it is to figure out a way to compromise, a way to meet in the middle, if at all possible. And I think that's what the sun's purpose is as it comes through here. But the sun and Jupiter are very active together. Jupiter expands on whatever it touches, and we will end up with Jupiter Cazimi as these two join together. And that can be a reawakening of some kind that is extremely important, considering the sun and Jupiter have not met in the sign of Leo for the last 12 years. This is one that we're going to want to pay close attention to. So again, remember, you have this supporting energy that's creating the basket formation, but all that support comes from the hidden and the unseen, because all these outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, are things that we cannot see with the naked eye, but they are things that we can feel. So pay attention to your intuition so that you understand what the sun is highlighting for you. Now, of course, Leo is leadership. It can be leaders of companies, leaders of the world, leaders of countries, and leaders in your own family, in your own career. And those leaders have some challenges from a leader of a collective group of some kind. So that Aquarius energy, we the people, your friend groups, your work groups, being of service to other people types of groups, internet groups, innovative groups, science groups. Like there are groups of people that are not in alignment with whatever this leader is doing, and vice versa. The leader wants something maybe better, and the people are dragging him down. So, of course, the story depends on you and your chart. And most notable, if you happen to have planets around 4 degrees, especially in Leo and Aquarius. And then the other two major events that occurred Sunday were the transfer of the lessons from Virgo and Pisces into, again, Leo and Aquarius. So now the North Node, where it's calling us, is to be of service, is to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And that South Node in Leo is letting go of the things that only matter to you, that only let you shine, let you be in the spotlight. South Node is the karma that we carry forward with us in this lifetime, but it's also the lessons learned. So it's not like we're forgetting the past. We're supposed to be learning from the past, South Node in Leo, in order to head towards the future. The North Node in Aquarius, the age of Aquarius, where everybody wants to be connected and helping and serving one another. Of course, the internet connects us, power connects us. And wherever the North Node goes, there are lessons to learn, and they're not always easy. So you Aquariuses and Leos out there, you've got some work to do that's going to last about 20 months as we don't see them shift again until we get to the end of March, as I mentioned, 2028. Then we're going to see a move into Capricorn and Cancer. So talk about hard work coming. Yeah, we got always work to do when it comes to the nodes. And you'll want to go out and read the article. I'll have the link to that below, where I broke this all down. What does it mean? What has it meant in the past? What did we experience in the past? Like the financial crisis of 2008? Yeah, that happened when the nodes were in these signs as well. Other things, of course, were going on, but that is a significant point that was also happening at that time that we can't ignore. So that is some of the work that begins, and as planets or as these points show up for us at 29 degrees, the intensity of the work is more significant. And of course, anytime a planet changes signs or the nodes change signs, they bring with them new energy. And that rush of new energy can feel pretty intense. And again, more intense if you happen to have a personal planet or a rising sign at this 29 degree mark or very close to it. There's karmic lessons that are being taught at this time, and they're intense. That's what the 29 degrees means. Sooner we understand the lessons and we start getting in alignment and doing the work we're meant to do, the better the transit will be for you. But this is fate. This is destiny. This is karma. This is dharma. So these are things that happen maybe not even directly to us, but around us. And then we start falling in line with where we're being guided and where we're being led, because we have a timeline that we're here to follow. And there may be some big changes in the timeline happening as a result of these changes. Other karmic work that we are experiencing comes to us from Saturn, the planet that rules time, that rules karma, that holds us accountable. And of course, Saturn in the sign of Aries is asking the question, am I doing all that I'm meant to be doing? Am I strong? Am I independent? Am I a warrior? Am I fighting for something? Or am I fighting just to fight? That's part of the questions that will come up as Saturn begins its retrograde. And because Saturn, like Jupiter, is a transpersonal planet, it has a longer retrograde, but not as long as the outer planets. And while it retrogrades over these next several months, the work is slower. The work is definitely harder because Saturn requires a lot of hard work. And so that is what is beginning now. And anytime a planet goes retrograde, as it first changes direction, as I mentioned with the nodes, something's going to stand out. And the moon plays a significant role on Monday in that sign of Capricorn because it faces off with Mercury, who thankfully is moving ahead, but very slowly. And so things can still be a little confusing. And both of them square to Saturn in Aries. So there can be an older leader who's under pressure. Again, it could be a leader of a country, of a company, in your own family. And that tension that's created by maybe even a woman in a position of government or the young people in a country, their tension, the only way to resolve it is through this older, wiser person, aka Saturn. And again, it could be the lessons from the past that Saturn's using, or the information about certain individuals from the past that Saturn's using to help resolve this conflict and bring it to a resolution. But as all of this energy collides here on Monday, July 27th, it's bound to be a very intense day. So make sure you're giving yourself a lot of grace and a lot of space. And it's not about digging in your heels. It's not about escalating conflicts, but it is about following the rules. That's Saturn and Aries. Saturn can be very restrictive. Saturn has a very specific list of things that he wants you to be doing for yourself and about yourself. So this is definitely a good time to review any relationships, any situationships that you're in where you continue to be codependent, because that's really not going to be tolerated by Saturn. More to come on that, but that's a lot as we get started on Monday. So let's jump ahead and notice that nothing is changing on Tuesday. Everything that's there is still there. But one new conflict that we do have is this square between Venus in Virgo and Mars in Gemini is now exact. So this can be a lot of conflict in relationships because they're both sitting at 20 degrees, which 2 is a number of balance. It's a number of relating. It's about give and take. Mars in Gemini is, speaking up, fighting for something. Venus in Virgo can be having a lot of issues with control, with a lot of information as far as details go. And what's interesting, of course, is that we have Mercury, as I mentioned, now moving ahead, that is sitting kind of between the conflict that these two are a part of. And Mercury rules Virgo, where Venus is, and Gemini, where Mars is. So there is, again, something about information from maybe younger people that is needed in order to resolve this conflict. But it's not a short conflict. These two planets are going to be square to each other for most of this week. So again, when we have conflict, that is when we need to learn to compromise or change direction. So there can be a change that is needed today. So again, it's not about digging in your heels. It is about speaking up for yourself, though. That's what Mars and Gemini does, but it can be a little bit harsh as far as how the message comes across. So just keep that in mind. And very controlling, Venus in Virgo, wanting to control outcomes. So that this is, again, can just make whatever this conflict is even worse. And Mars is probably the stronger of the two planets in this conflict. So there can be a lot of words that can be very aggressive and people who are feeling very aggressive because of this conflict. So just keep that in mind as you're out and about on Tuesday. But the really big intense energy of this week comes on Wednesday when we have the full moon in the sign of Aquarius, while Jupiter and the sun are in Cazimi, while the moon is conjunct to Pluto in Aquarius. So this can bring, and maybe it has for you already, some very emotional experiences. So I have it set for the 29th. It's around 7:40 a.m. in the morning. So even Tuesday evening, as we see that moon and it's full and bright, we're under the influence of this energy. Now, the number 6, where this happens though, is a hopeful energy. It's joyful, it's happy. So you have Jupiter and the sun in the Cazimi energy, the rebirth of the planet Jupiter, who's been bathed by the sun's light, so that the picture becomes very clear on what Jupiter needs to do over the next year as it moves through the sign of Leo. And whatever that aha moment is, this growth opportunity that arises as a result of this conversation between the sun and Jupiter, that's what's shining a light on the moon in Aquarius. And of course, that moon is speaking directly with Pluto in the underworld, in the sign of Aquarius. So Pluto, the lord of the underworld, of things like death and transformation and power and fear. So I always suggest we consider this energy as something that we use to face our fears and then transform those fears into a strength, into something that we can use that is very powerful. But this is also a very explosive conflict of some kind. So I am a little wary of this energy, especially because the conflict between that Venus and that Mars energy is still very strong. And of course, this Barbault's basket that is helping to deliver something in this basket is activated as well. So whenever we have the moon go through the sign of Aquarius, it's a completion of some kind. It's closure. And the area or the topics of that closure have to do with Aquarian things that we talked about before. So friend groups, work groups, networking groups, service groups, and internet groups, science groups, all of these things ruled by Uranus. And so, of course, Uranus in the sign of Gemini is speaking in harmony with the energy of this full moon, speaking in harmony with the sun and Jupiter. There is something pretty incredible and maybe even life-changing, world-changing going on as a result of this full moon in the sign of Aquarius. So the advice, whatever you're going through, whatever you're a part of, if it doesn't allow you space to grow, if it holds you back, if it restricts you in some way, then it's time for that to end. And then on the flip side of that, if what you've been doing, being of service, helping other people, is ready to come to fullness, come to completion, you're ready to launch something into the world, then this may be the time to do that. But just keep in mind, full moons happen under some tension, and we have the tension between Venus and Mars. So it may be time to consider what slight changes you would need to make in order to launch whatever this is, to provide support, to help other people at this time may require some changes. So this is intense energy, and it would be probably beneficial that you have a good support group around you if you're going through any personal difficulties as well. Now, Pluto's intense energy. The moon is emotional energy. The moon shows us what we need to feel safe and secure. So the moon in the sign of Aquarius is saying this would be a good time to consider joining groups that are making a difference. There could be some conflicts that involve data centers, right? Which could affect the energy at home in your community, and those conflicts would show up in some big way and maybe end a data center trying to be set up in a community where the impacts of it are far more costly than the benefits. So there is, again, some very intense energy going on. And I have the article out there that you can take a look at and read for even more details. But I do expect if you have planets between the 4, 6, maybe 4 to 8 degrees of Leo and Aquarius, that you'll notice some kind of a significant ending. And people always say, is it a good ending? Is it a bad ending? I can't tell you that specifically, but I can tell you it's an ending or a completion that does really change a significant part of your life. And the moon, of course, rules home, it rules family, rules safety, it rules security, our emotions, our intuition. It can be about food. So many things can fall under the energy of the mother and caring and nurturing for other people. But there's tremendous change. Other things that have been going on in the weeks leading up to this are really all culminating in the energy of this full moon on Wednesday. So let's take a few minutes and do the breakdown for every sign so that you have a good idea of what to expect or what to be expecting to work with, or maybe what the people around you are going through. And maybe you're the person that's going to be there providing support through this dramatic change. So as usual, let's do this rundown from Aries to Pisces, starting here with the sign of Aries. So Aries, this is a full moon in your 11th house of friends and networking groups, which of course is all of the Aquarian things that we just talked about. So it's a completion of a friend group, a work group, a networking group, the internet. It is a service group that you're a part of that's either completing a project or launching something where you're making a difference and helping other people. And then in some scenarios, this is you letting go of some friends that are no longer aligned with you and your purpose and how you want to be making a difference in the world. And then keep in mind, Aries, you just had Saturn go retrograde in your sign. So if you're a part of friend groups that don't allow you to be independent, then that would give you a clue, whether it's a work group or personal group, that that's a situation that's not going to work anymore. So if you can't stand up and get what you need out of these groups that you're a part of, then this would be a time for you to move on from them. Next, we have Taurus. And Taurus, this for you is happening in your 10th house, just like this chart, of career and status and reputation and fame. So it could be something about what you're currently recognized for is coming to completion, coming to an end. It can be a marriage, it can be a career, it's anything that you are famous for, that some kind of chapter is closing in this area of your life. Now, you could be changing careers, so you would be leaving one career, moving on to another. You could be getting married, and that would change your status, right, from single to married, and vice versa. Relationships can, come to a close that you're famous for in some way. But it's also time for you to make a decision. Is the work I'm doing what I'm aligned with? Do I make a difference? Do I feel like I fit in? Do I feel like I belong? And if not, then you would use this energy to understand what you're better suited for, and then you would go about making changes so that you now have a career that aligns with the goals that you have for yourself. And Aquarius goals can be something to do with science, with innovation, and again, with being of service to other people as well. You definitely want to be connected with others. If you just work on your own, that career is not going to feel right for you, Taurus. And then we have you, Gemini. So Gemini, here we have a full moon in your 9th house of growth and expansion, foreign people, foreign places, higher education. So this can be a good time to complete a course of study. It could be spiritual, or it could be just going to college, or it could just be an independent course about maybe spirituality, because this energy is ruled by Jupiter, and this is a benefic energy. This is about you learning how to play big, be on the big stage instead of trying to continue to hide or play small. There's something that you need to conclude that holds you back, or there's something that, like I mentioned, you've already been doing, and now you're ready to complete a chapter. And as you do, right, that Sun and Jupiter highlight for you where the opportunities lie next for you. So that Sun and Jupiter for you, Gemini, of course, is in the 3rd house, which is Gemini energy. So this is about trusting your own mind, trusting what you know. And from that place, you're going to take the next step. And then there's going to be big opportunities that lie ahead for you. But again, you have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone and get out into the big world in order to explore the next chapter. And then we have Cancers who, geez, you had Jupiter go through here and be retrograde all last year. Now you've got Mercury, who's just finished its retrograde. And now you have a full moon in your 8th house of transformation and rebirth and power and money and resources that come to you from other people. So there's, as usual, 2 different ways that this could show up for you. This could be the end of resources that you've been getting from other people, and it would be good if those resources hold you back, make you too dependent on somebody else, and you would be ready to figure out how to do it on your own. And then from coming to fullness, you could say that this is you being able to identify and access the financial resources that are meant for you and that are coming to you from, groups of people. So this could be you identifying a group of investors that are willing to support you. And that support could potentially end up replacing a leader that's a part of, maybe this company that you've been working hard for and gaining all of these resources for, but you haven't been appreciated for it. Well, they may move on, and then you may step in and take on a new position of power and authority. But it is Pluto energy, so this can be, again, something that feels very significant to you, an emotional change of some kind where you have to face what you're afraid of and then step fully into your feelings, into your emotions in order to level up in some way. So it's time to get ready to move forward, Cancer. You can't stay where you've been at. It's time to level up, and it's time to face those emotions and those feelings and use them to motivate you to move forward in new, more powerful ways. And then we have Leos, and Leo, this is something coming to completion in your 7th house of serious relationships, business partnerships, commitments of some kind. So of course you've got the Sun and Jupiter in your 1st house. This is a rebirth, a reawakening of who you are and how you shine your light in the world. And that light right now is shining on your relationships. So if you're in a relationship where you're being held back, where you're being isolated in some way, and again, not allowed to shine your light, then those kinds of unsupportive relationships will come to a close. And on the flip side of that, you may make some very powerful connections with people from the past, even who are going to help lift you up, help you find your purpose, help you feel connected with the important people that you're in relationships with. So, this is about making connections, powerful connections that you can utilize to, again, shine your light and make a difference. But you're learning that you will shine brighter the more you are supporting other people in their journey versus just shining a light on your own. So we can still be a strong leader of other people and do it shoulder to shoulder versus standing out in front of them. And that's what we're learning through this Leo Aquarius storyline is I want to be a leader of the people, for the people, by the people, which means I'm doing this for the people, not for myself. And that's what's going to wake up a lot of leaders over the next 20 months is that story. Because any leader who continues to do things just for their own good, they're the ones that are going to be handed the karmic lessons from that South Node. So the South Node's going to move through here and clear the space for Jupiter to come through. And as they meet much later in the year and into next year, significant changes in leadership structures are going to occur. And this is just the beginning, that first step. As I mentioned, this is the awakening of this North Node and South Node work that is now underway. So this is a significant full moon, especially for you Leos and Aquariuses. Now, let's move ahead to Virgos. Virgos, this is happening for you in your 6th house, which is Virgo energy. So this is a conclusion to something that you are a part of or something that's a part of your day-to-day life. Now, with Venus there in your sign as well, love, beauty, money, those can be things that are changing or concluding in some way. This can bring a job change. This can bring the end of some health issues for you potentially. This could be a good time to let go of and release anything that's a part of your day-to-day life that no longer serves you. So again, it can be a job change. It can be a health routine change. It can be just a change in anything that you're a part of. Let's say you're a volunteer and what you're doing doesn't speak to you anymore, then you would stop doing that and then you would open the door to do something different. And I do think change is required for you Virgos because of the fact that that Venus and Mars square is a part of this full moon for you. So definitely consider, is it a budget change that's needed? Is it a job change that's needed? Is it your need to pay closer attention to the details and the facts, information, understanding? Something in that area has to change for you because of this conflict with that Mars in Gemini energy as well. But the good news is, as a result, you can start doing things on a day-to-day basis that you're more aligned with, where you're making a difference, where you're serving your higher good. And that is going to be motivating you to want to change things and not fight the change, fight trying to stay in control of all of the moving pieces. It's time to break free, Virgos, and this full moon can help you do that. And then we, of course, have Libra. Libra, this is something concluding in your 5th house, something completing. Now, the 5th house can be goals to have children, be with children, do something significant with or for your children. These are things that speak to your heart. If you're working on any kind of health issues. This could be, finding a solution to anything that's harming your heart in some way. And this is about romance and love and joy and happiness. So you can find your tribe, where you belong, where you fit in. And maybe it's through being of service in some service group, serving your community, where you could meet a significant person that you would begin a relationship with. Remember, full moon means we got to conclude something so that something new can begin. So you're letting go of maybe a child that's moving out, moving away, and suddenly you're an empty nester. And then you have to realize, what do you love to do? You've been a parent, and that's all you've done. Now that you have all this freedom, this free time, what will you do with it? So there's a conclusion. It's not a bad one, right? It's an opportunity for a child to move on. But now, what will you do with yourself? And this energy suggests that you find a group that's aligned with you and what you enjoy and start spending time with them and see what comes next. And then we have Scorpios. Scorpio, this is a full moon, something concluding that has to do with home and family. So this is energy that can restructure your family dynamics. This is energy that can, create a lot of turmoil in the family because of the conflicts here that are going on. And it can also see you moving and relocating to be closer to the people that feel like family to you, into some new community as a result because of that Aquarian energy. Now, for some, maybe you've just been working on some major projects around the house, and so those would be coming to a close. But there's definitely a possibility that a new opportunity arises for you, maybe a leadership role of some kind. And in order to take on that leadership role, you may have to move or relocate. But definitely significant changes in family structures, in the structure of your home, and a rebirth or a retransformation could mean, like I said, just finally the conclusion of a big remodeling project. If it's not the whole house, maybe it's just a room, but use this energy to change things up. And then you're taking advantage of that square between Venus and Mars. And that way you could just move the energy by moving the furniture around your home if you don't want to get sucked into anything bigger at this time. And next we have Sagittarius. Sagittarius, this is the completion of something in your third house. Now, the third house can be something to do with extended family members. It's something to do with your community, something to do with education, communication, transportation. So all of those things can have you stepping into potentially a position in your community where you want to make a big difference. That's a possibility for you as well. So that challenging energy comes from that Mars in Gemini that's across the sky from you. So in order to conclude something about what you think or what you think you know, third house topics, or teaching, you might have to really challenge yourself, or somebody else is going to challenge you to your way of thinking about a certain topic. And when you do, that's when this big significant change is going to occur. And it could shake things up within your family, like your cousins, as a result of maybe you speaking up about a painful situation in the family. The dynamics and the way that you've been thinking about something is about to go through a big change, but then it opens the door to new ideas and new opportunities, which you love because you always want to be moving ahead. And so just let whatever this is go and accept the new, fresh perspective. Next, we have Capricorn. So Capricorn, this is a full moon here in your second house. And the second house rules the money that you make, the things that are of value to you, your self-worth. And so this can bring a change in the work that you do or whatever you're doing on a daily basis to gain financial income. And that would open the door to something new. Now, with Aquarian energy, you could be, again, somebody who works in the sciences, works in technology, works with groups. And if you're not, then you would want to consider those new avenues at this time. You could definitely bring, something or someone in a position of authority. Their role could be coming to an end, and then that could open up a new position for you, for example. But trust that if you're not doing work where you're valued, where you gain self-worth from the work that you're doing, then a change at this time isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a push from the universe to get you out of a situation where you don't feel good on a day-to-day basis, which is very costly energetic wise, and helping you see what potential you have, what you deserve, and then being able to find it. So we have to have a lot of trust and faith in the process right now in order for these new opportunities, this gift basket to appear, especially for you in early degrees of that Capricorn energy, that those opportunities will only come if we're willing to deal with a little conflict, and then the gift will show up for us. And then, of course, Aquarius, this is your full moon. So this is going to feel very personal to you. You emotionally just may be feeling a little over the top. And I would say you're not the most emotional, expressive person. You are more about your intellect. So this does push you to get more in touch with your feelings and your emotions in some way. And so this is a personal goal, maybe something that you set for yourself 6 months ago when we had the new moon in Aquarius, who you wanted to be, how you wanted to make a difference in the world, how you want other people to see you. And you've been working on that for the last 6 months. And now that's finally ready to become your reality. Now, the tension could come from someone that you're in a serious relationship with, of course, because we have that Leo energy across the sky challenging you from your 7th house of serious relationships. And so remember, your partners are your mirrors. Your close friends are your mirrors. They're showing you something that you need to understand. Do you keep getting into the same kind of relationship, but the person just changes? What are you doing that allows that energetically? And now you have the power of Pluto in your sign helping you understand who you truly are, how powerful you really are, and helping you go through the rebirth process. And of course, there's a lot of pressure involved, and there's something at this full moon that's going to push you to make a major change. And then a new chapter opens up for you, and maybe people will finally see you for who you truly are. Unique, eclectic, very interesting, very smart, very intelligent, very gifted. Just let yourself be yourself, and you'll have an incredible full moon experience. And last, never least, of course, we have Pisces. Pisces, this is a 12th house full moon. And the 12th house with a full moon there exposes deep, dark secrets. It exposes things that are hidden and buried and brings them to the surface. And those things that are hidden and buried are, information. It is about maybe groups that are doing things behind your back that you need to become aware of so that you can make a change. So 12th house rules the subconscious mind. It rules things that are hidden. It rolls over large institutions where we can become stuck and trapped, like prisons, hospitals, large organizations. So this can also be the energy where your company that you work for is going through a big significant change, and they've been working on it behind your backs, which is how all corporations manage change. And there's some announcement that's coming forward about the changes that are coming that can be a little disruptive. So that Jupiter and Sun in your 6th house of the work you do does suggest that there could be some leadership changes happening, and those leadership changes mean this person is coming in and changing everything, and it's causing an uproar. And so maybe you're going to step into a leadership role that helps your unit or your group speak up and speak out about these changes that are trying to be implemented. Whatever is coming, trust the process. Trust your intuition. You now, Pisces, are free. The North Node lessons are complete. It's moved on. It's moved out of your sign. So now it's time to incorporate everything that you've learned over the last year and a half and move forward, trusting and having faith that you are being guided where you are meant to go next, and you don't have to stress or worry about that. Just lean in and trust that faith has a plan for you, and it's a good one, and a reward for all the work that you've just endured. All right, there's just some ideas of how that full moon might be showing up. I do expect it to be intense. I do expect the energy leading up to it this entire first part of the week to match that intensity. But remember, change and transformation, that is what Pluto is working on. That's what it's working on with Neptune's help and with Uranus's help. It's reshaping society as a whole. And change is necessary as we move forward. So with that, we are just going to continue to move forward with the energy of conflict, the energy of compromise, as we see Thursday. As I mentioned, that conflict between Venus and Mars continues. So it's a requirement for there to be change. So again, when you're given a choice, do something different. Don't keep doing things the same way you always have. And as that moon continues in the sign of Aquarius, we continue to attach to the people that we are closest to as we move through this transformation. And nothing significant changing on Friday, except the moon will then move into the sign of Pisces. And then as we get into Saturday, it's the 1st of August. Unbelievable. And we always say rabbit, rabbit, as we move into a new month and hopefully call in some good luck as we move through the energy there. And then as we finish up the week, we have the sun that has moved past its Jupiter connection and is helping clear a little space there. And then we see this T-square between Mars. Like I mentioned, it's still speaking with Venus in a square. And then the moon now has created yet another T-square, but it's the moon this time in opposition to Venus. And it's this Mars energy at the top of our mountain of pressure. So Sunday could be a bit explosive as far as energy goes. It could be explosive as far as conversations and conflicts. It's a brief discussion or a brief outburst because, of course, the moon moves very quickly. The moon in Pisces is gentle. Venus is a gentle energy as well. So the only person making a big fuss or a big fool of themselves is Mars in the sign of Gemini. So don't let that be you. Don't be triggered. Don't be explosive. Don't be over the top today as we wrap up the week. All right. And then as we get moving into next week, we are going to get this Chiron in Taurus energy moving retrograde. So if you've been following me, I've been telling you that June through September is just a preview of the work that's going to come up even stronger next spring. So now we have between here and September 17th, I think, for Chiron's retrograde action to begin to show us what we need to understand about our self-worth, about how our self-worth is tied to the money that we make and the things we have. And do we self-sabotage our financial picture all the time because we don't think or believe that we're worthy? So it's time to slow down and think about the things and the choices that you're making that aren't in alignment with who you truly are and what you deserve. So we have about 6 weeks to get an idea of that work that will be much stronger in 2027. And then we have to go back and work on ourselves. Chiron and Aries, we have to finish the work on who I am and what matters to me and how am I expressing my own individual needs. So that's going to finish a chapter that started in 2018 when Chiron first entered the sign of Aries. So it's the final work that we have to do. It lasts between now and next March. And then we're going to be ready to graduate and move on. And then we will also see next week Venus move into her home sign of Libra. So just a few light energies to navigate through next week. So it might feel like a little bit of a breath of fresh air, which we need and deserve. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for liking. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for sharing. For some reason, I'm in a little bit of YouTube jail when it comes to my shorts. I have no idea. And no, I don't mean the shorts I'm wearing here being at the lake this summer. But if you would go out and watch, like, comment these short tarot videos where I combine the tarot messages along with the astrology of the day to give you a perspective that is hopefully a little bit unique on how to navigate the energies of the day. So there's a link to that right above here. And while I'm not doing readings this week, you can certainly book for me as we get headed into the eclipses, which will be the following week, where we get started with that new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Leo. And if you have Leo energies around 20 degrees, you're going to feel it personally, and you're going to want to be ready and prepared for that. All right, guys, we will talk again next week. Let me know in the comments how things have been going for you. Take care.